you everybody for being here today. I'm going to be talking about teaching people skills or management skills in the business English classroom or in the English classroom in general, but I think probably we're talking about business English most of the time. I'm hoping also to be giving you one or two little ideas that you can take away immediately and try out yourselves. And as a little warmer, I'd like to start with one of those. So we're going to do a little bit of mathematics. It's not actually management. So would you like to just take a piece of paper and draw these four figures on your piece of paper? And then this is something which I learned from a management training session. You may have come across it as well. If you have already come across this, then just keep it to yourself for a couple of moments. But if you haven't, then let's have a little bit of fun with this. So, when you've drawn those, can you first of all divide the circle into two equal parts? That shouldn't present too many challenges, even if you were as bad at maths at school as I was. Two equal parts. Then divide the triangle into three equal parts. Slightly more challenging. Okay, I will stress that they must be equal parts, three equal parts. Okay, after that, then divide the square into four equal parts. The first square into four equal parts. And when you've successfully completed that challenge, you can move on to the last one, which is to divide the second square into five equal parts. This is something which you'll either find totally easy and you'll be thinking, well, what's all the fuss about? Or actually quite difficult. So you put your circle in two equal parts, triangle in three equal parts, square in four equal parts. There is more than one solution, yes. Yes. You may have others. Okay, and the simple solution for the last one, five equal parts, is that one, which probably about half of you found immediately and thought, well, yeah, that's easy. But the other half were scratching their heads and thinking, how can we do that? The reason why that can be difficult is because I had prepared you to think in a certain way. This is what a lot of management training is about, changing behaviour. We go through life and we get into patterns and we have habits because they're comfortable, they make us, they reassure us, make us feel comfortable. And so when you're actually trying to teach management, very often you're trying to change people's behaviour. And one of the problems in changing behaviour is that you need to actually stop and think a little bit differently, get out of that rut. So this is a little activity which is used just to start getting people aware of the idea of thinking a bit differently. I think it's also very valuable for language teaching, because when you're learning another language, you're also learning to think a little bit differently. It's not just a question of words, it's a question of learning to think like an English speaker, a different way of approaching problems. A second example of that, here you join the 9 dots, join those 9 dots by drawing 4 straight lines and without lifting your pen off the paper. Okay, again, once you know the trick, it's easy. 4 straight lines. 4 straight lines joining all the dots and without lifting your pen from the paper. I'll give you a little help. It's all about thinking outside the box. And once you start thinking outside the box, it becomes a lot easier. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Again, an example of how both for management training and for language training, we need to go outside the box, challenge our established limits, think a bit differently, be prepared to try out new ideas, new behaviours. So, I was lucky enough a few years ago to be invited to take part and then to actually run some management training sessions for native speakers. And I was very interested to see what would be different in management training from language training. And I was pleasantly surprised to discover that they both use very similar techniques. Both use lots of warmers, both use inductive learning, giving people an experience, asking them to think about it, to try to generate rules and work out how those behaviours can be optimised. They both use good old-fashioned presentation, practice, production, just as valid in management training as in language training. They use lots of pair work, lots of group work, lots of role plays, simulations, and feedback. Feedback, perhaps in management training, is a little different, a little more delicate, but just as important as in language training. If there isn't feedback, if it's not done well, then you lose a lot of the effectiveness of the training session. So, there are a certain number of assumptions that we can make. In teaching management skills, we would imagine, I certainly imagined when I started, that the focus would be on what you say rather than how you say it. If we're dealing with native speakers, we can expect them to know how to say what they need to say. Whereas in language training, the focus traditionally is very much on how you say it. We tend to assume that our learners know what they want to say, but we just need to help them with how they can say it. Whereas in fact, there is a real genuine need in management training to work on also how you say it. I discovered that my native speaker trainees in management were actually very poor in terms of diplomacy, in terms of getting the right nuance, the right language to give constructive criticism, for example, to persuade people to do things, to give orders in a, well, saying the word order suggests the wrong idea, but to get people to do things in a proactive, a cooperative, participative manner. They needed quite a lot of work on that. And similarly, I think for students of business English particularly, they also need help with what to say as well as how to say it, particularly if we're talking about pre-service learners, but also even fairly experienced managers in service may find that the switch from their own language to English leaves them puzzled about what they should actually say.